Welcome everybody to the Matagorda Ship Channel Improvement Project public meeting. I'm Hannah Hadley, the environmental lead. I will be providing a couple announcements. So the restrooms, it's kind of a safety briefing. The restrooms there's two sets of restrooms out these doors and then to the left and to the right. Also the exits are back here and it looks like there's an exit over here as well. And tonight we will be providing some opening remarks and we'll be giving a presentation and then we'll open up the meeting to verbal comments. So just a little reminder again, if you'd like to make a verbal comment tonight, please and you haven't signed up yet, please feel free to sign up out at the front table. And now I would like to introduce Galveston District's Commander, Colonel David Dake, for opening remarks. Thank you, sir.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I tried to meet a few of you as you came in. Sorry I didn't get to shake hands with everybody as you came in. But thank you all for being here. As Hannah said, I'm Colonel David Dake. I'm the commander for the Corps of Engineers Galveston District. It's my privilege to welcome you to this public meeting regarding the Matagorda Ship Channel Improvement Project. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the commitment that you have all shown by being here. So whether you're here as a concerned community member, an advocate, or just someone who wants to learn more about this project, we appreciate your participation. Your engagement is critical to ensuring that we make the right decisions and that those decisions reflect the needs and concerns of the people who will be most impacted by this project, which is you all. We recognize that there are concerns from the community, and I want to assure you from the outset that your concerns are being heard. We recognize that the Matagorda Ship Channel Improvement Project has potential environmental concerns, and as stewards of the public trust, we take our responsibility to manage these impacts very seriously. At its core, this project aims to improve port efficiency, reduce transportation costs, and enhance navigational safety. By addressing limitations in the current width and depth of the Matagorda Ship Channel, we are working to strengthen the energy trade balance of the United States and improve our ability to export energy products to support national security priorities, as outlined in Executive Order 14156. The improvement project also aims to increase the capacity of our nation's energy infrastructure to meet the demands of both the economy and our defense requirements. That being said, we are keenly aware that these kinds of projects carry both benefits and responsibilities, and it is essential to get them right. The Matagorda Ship Channel Improvement Project has faced some challenges, which is part of why we're here today. In 2019, we identified a discrepancy in the volume of dredge material that will be produced by this project. This led to the withdrawal of the previous record of decision. Our team recognized that the 2019 recommended plan did not account for the full volume of dredge material and the need for additional placement areas for that material. It's moments like these that highlight the importance of us as the Army Corps of Engineers getting the engineering right. And when we don't get it right, it's our responsibility to pause, reassess, and take the necessary steps to address the issue. This is why we are now in the process of completing a draft validation report and supplemental environmental impact statement, which you'll hear referred to as an SEIS. The intent behind these updates is to ensure that we have thoroughly examined the potential environmental and community impacts while also remaining transparent and responsive to the concerns raised during the 2023 public scoping meeting. It's also important for us to acknowledge the community's role in this process. During the previous public meeting and during our smaller stakeholder engagements, we heard from environmental groups and community members who raised valid questions and concerns. I want to assure you that we have carefully reviewed those concerns, and the feedback from those meetings is guiding us as we continue our work. We've made efforts to incorporate these viewpoints into our planning, including translating the executive summary of the draft report and other key documents into Spanish. We've also made sure to provide Spanish language interpreters for today's meeting to ensure that Spanish-speaking members of the community can fully engage in the process. While we are unable to hold a formal question and answer session today, I want to emphasize that today's meeting is an opportunity for all of you to share your thoughts with us. Whether you wish to speak in person or submit written comments, we value your input. The comments we gather here today will help us as we refine the project and develop the next steps in our environmental review process. After the comment period concludes, we will publish an appendix that outlines responses to the substantive comments we have received. This appendix will be included with the final report, which is anticipated for release in fall of 2026. I want to take a moment to reflect on the importance of transparency. We're committed to ensuring that this project proceeds in a manner that reflects the interests and concerns of the community, while also fulfilling its broader objectives. As a project that will affect not only the local community, but the broader region and the nation, we take our obligations seriously. We will continue to be open and transparent about the status of the project, the challenges we face, and the solutions we're working on. This is a long process, as I'm sure I don't need to remind you, and we're grateful for your ongoing participation. The decisions we make today will have lasting impacts, and it is essential that we proceed with care and consideration for all of those affected. We know that this project is about much more than just dredging and widening a waterway. It's about building a sustainable future for the people in this region and the generations that will follow. Once again, thank you for being here today. We are here to listen, to learn, and to continue to refine our approach. Your feedback is essential, and we are excited to hear your thoughts as we and our non-federal sponsor, the Calhoun Port Authority, move forward with this project. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Mr. Charles Hausman, the Director of the Port of Calhoun, for any opening remarks he may have. Thank you very much, everybody.
Well, I'm going to be just short and sweet. First off, I want to thank every one of you for coming out tonight for this meeting on the Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement. Those of you who do not know me, my name's Charles Hausman. I am the Port Director for the Calhoun Port Authority. As such, the Calhoun Port Authority is the non-federal sponsor for the Matagorda Ship Channel. As such, the Calhoun Port Authority supports the findings and everything that the Corps has come up with in this Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement, and we want to continue to work and keep this transparent. Again, I'm Charles Hausman, Port Director. The other thing that I want to do at this time is I want to take a second to thank the Colonel and his staff, especially our project development team, for getting this put together. They have been outstanding in getting this, and we support the Corps' efforts and all the work that they are doing on this project. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the presenter, which is going to be Ms. Heather Briscoe, and she will go through what the project is going to be.
Hello, my name is Heather Briscoe. I am the project manager for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Corps, for the Matagorda Ship Channel Improvement Project. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us this evening. As you're aware, the draft validation report and supplemental environmental impact statement has been developed, and I will refer to this as the draft report and SEIS throughout the rest of this presentation. On November 14th, the notice of availability, along with the draft report and the SEIS, was published in the Federal Register, and the team issued a public notice that the public review and comment period had started. This is all part of the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, process that ensures the public has an opportunity to review and comment on federal projects that have a potential to impact environmental resources. So we are here tonight for two main reasons. The first is to provide information about the progress that has been made on the improvement project, and the second is to receive comments you have regarding this project. I'll be walking through this presentation, and then we will receive verbal comments. So before we discuss the project, the progress the project has made, I first wanted to go through a little history. The details are provided on the screen shown here, but essentially what it amounts to is that in 2019, the Corps completed the Integrated Feasibility Report and Environmental Impact Statement. From now on, I'm going to refer to that one as the 2019 report and EIS. So once the 2019 report and EIS was completed, and the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works signed the Record of Decision, Congress passed the Water Resource Development Act of 2020. This law included authorization for the construction of the Matagorda Ship Channel Widening and Deepening Project, as described in the recommended plan outlined in the 2019 report in EIS. After receiving authorization from Congress, the Corps began working on the design phase of the project. However, as Colonel Dake noted, during that design phase, a discrepancy in the total amount of dredged material was identified. This discrepancy ultimately led to the withdrawal of the record of decision in 2022, which also led to the Corps initiating this draft validation report and supplemental environmental impact statement that we are discussing here tonight. So on this slide, you can see the construction authorities that authorize the construction of the project. I'm not going to read those to you. They're just presented here for your reference so that you can go look those up in the public laws. So why complete a validation and supplemental environmental impact statement? So let's start with the Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement, or SEIS. So the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, requires federal agencies to prepare an environmental impact statement for all major federal actions likely to have a significant impact on the environment. An environmental impact statement provides decision makers with a clear understanding of the impacts proposed action or projects will likely have to the environment. And this is what was completed as part of the 2019 report in EIS. During execution of a project, if there are significant changes that are made, or if new information or circumstances are found that are relative to the environmental impacts of a project, then a supplement to that environmental impact statement must be prepared. When this happens, we call it a supplemental environmental impact statement, or SEIS. So as I mentioned earlier, in 2020, when the Corps was in the design phase of the project, we identified a discrepancy in the amount of dredge material that would be created by the project as compared to what we had identified in that 2019 report in EIS. Since the recommended plan from the 2019 report in EIS did not identify the full amount of dredge material that would be created by the project, the 2019 report in EIS also did not identify sufficient disposal locations to accommodate that full amount of dredge material. This was viewed as a significant change to the project that would be relevant to environmental impacts for the project. Because of that, the Corps needed to complete a supplemental environmental impact statement, which is why we're here to review tonight. So the document that is currently open for public comment is called the Matagorda Ship Channel Improvement Project Draft Validation Report and Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement. Again, I'll continue to refer to this as the draft report in SEIS. The draft report in SEIS was initiated in 2023 with the goal of updating the 2019 report and EIS by reassessing the disposal locations for the dredged material that would be created by this project. We call this the Dredged Material Management Plan, or DMMP. Updating the economic benefits and costs for this project, and supplementing the 2019 EIS by evaluating the potential environmental effects of proposed changes to the project as described in the 2019 report in EIS. Now that we've reviewed the project history and the reason the Corps is completing the draft report in the SEIS, I'll walk you through an overview of the project. For more specifics and details, I strongly encourage everyone to review the draft report and SEIS, which can be found at the project website. The project website is here on the screen. It's also included on the handout that was at the check-in, the sign-in desk. If you didn't get one, please make sure to grab one on your way out. So when the Corps initiated the draft report in SEIS, the team determined that the initial problems and opportunities for this project remained essentially the same since that 2019 report and EIS were completed. By problems and opportunities, that really means what are the concerns that this project attempts to address, and what are the benefits of completing this project? And essentially that really boils down to the fact that the Matagorda Ship Channel was originally constructed in the 1960s And since then, vessels and ships have continually increased in size with wider beams and longer overall lengths, while the ship channel has remained the same as it was constructed in the 1960s. In addition, strong currents in the entrance and cross currents in the bay limit the allowable ship draft and timing, causing unsafe conditions. By widening and deepening the channel, we expect the benefits to be an increase in transportation efficiency and increasing navigational safety. An additional benefit that was identified for this draft report in SEIS, as compared to the 2019 report, is that this project is expected to strengthen national security by increasing our country's ability to export energy products, including crude oil, thereby increasing our country's energy trade balance with allies and supporting defense priorities in accordance with Executive Order 14156. In addition to problems and opportunities, the team reviewed the project objectives and the purpose and needs statement from the 2019 report. Essentially, think of these as the goals and the purpose for the project. After review, the team determined that the project objectives, as shown on the screen, remain the same as compared to the 2019 report. The purpose and needs statement also echo the problems and opportunities for this project, with the purpose being to increase operational efficiencies of maritime commerce movement through the Matagorda Ship Channel, and the need for this project was identified as becoming more critical given increasing levels of maritime traffic, increasing vessel size, and a growing number of channel users active in the oil and petrochemical industry. Once we understood the goals and purpose for this project, we needed to assess the potential dimensions or scale depths that would be considered for the deepening and widening. On this slide, we have the dimensions that were assessed for the draft report and SEIS. This includes the assessment of a no-action alternative, which is a way of saying the current or existing conditions. So for the no-action alternative, if the Corps did not widen and deepen the channel, the dimensions would stay the same as they are today. In addition to the no-action alternative, the team assessed 3 different scale depths or dimensions for widening and deepening the channel, which are shown on this slide. These are also the same dimensions that were assessed in the 2019 report in EIS. For the draft report in SEIS, the team recommends the -47/-49 foot scale depth, which is the same as the 2019 recommended plan. So the difference, the -47 and the -49, the -49 is in the entrance channel where it cuts through Matagorda Peninsula, as opposed to the 47, which is the majority of the rest of the channel that goes from the entrance channel to the port. If you want more details like that related to the recommendation and the rest of these scale depths, I will refer you to the draft report in SEIS that is available on the project website. I also want to note that the reason these dimensions are important is because the Dredge Material Management Plan, or the DMMP, and all the various assessments the team completed were based off of the amount of dredge material that will be produced by the recommended scale depth. So this leads us to discussing the proposed modifications to the Dredged Material Management Plan, or DMMP. And the Dredged Material Management is just a fancy way of saying, where do we put all the material that is being dredged? So first, here is the current or existing DMMP for the Matagorda Ship Channel. As you're likely aware, the Corps completes routine operations and maintenance dredging on the ship channel in order to maintain the currently authorized depth of the channel. The green boxes shown on this slide represent the currently authorized placement areas for dredged material. So these are the areas in which the Corps can currently dispose of dredged material. While they are not all utilized during every dredging cycle, they are available for use if needed. As part of the draft report in SEIS, the team reviewed this current DMMP and the DMMP that was developed and included in the 2019 report. Utilizing those and the updated and accurate quantities of dredged material that is expected to be produced by the project, the team updated the DMMP to ensure sufficient locations were identified for the disposal of the full amount of dredged materials reduced by the widening and deepening of the channel. So now you're looking at the DMMP that is included in the draft report in SEIS. So again, this is included in the report that you can find on the website, and this is where we are planning to place the material for the improvement project. This DMMP was developed to accommodate the full amount of dredged material from the widening and deepening project, as well as the material that is expected to be produced during a 50-year lifespan for operations and maintenance dredging. In addition to taking into account quantities of dredged material, the team also took into consideration cultural resources, environmental impacts to environmental resources, and existing bay bottom pipelines with the intent of minimizing impacts to the maximum extent possible. While we'll review the environmental assessments in detail later in this presentation, I do want to note that the environmental assessments that have been completed were based off of the project footprint you see in this figure. That includes the wider, deeper ship channel and all of the placement areas for dredged material. The placement areas are the various colored boxes and circles on this figure that are color-coded to distinguish between the type of material that would be placed in those areas. With that in mind, if you are familiar with the DMMP from the 2019 report, you may notice that the placement areas were adjusted from the west side, the bottom side of the channel there, to the east side of the top side of the channel there. This was done largely to reduce impacts to oyster and seagrass habitats located on the western, or that bottom part of the channel there, as well as to reduce potential impacts to the Powderhorn Ranch Wildlife Management Area. This DMMP also includes potential placement areas for beneficial use of the dredged material, including continuing to place at Chester or Sundown Island, utilizing a sand engine for potential beach renourishment on the Gulf side of Matagorda Peninsula, a new bird island in Lavaca Bay, and potentially along the Keller Bay Peninsula. This DMMP is included on the handout and on the posters we have available at the sign-in desk if you want to take a closer look. And again, this figure and more details can be found in the draft report and SEIS that is available at the project website. So the next several slides walk us through the various assessments the team completed based on the proposed project and overall footprint. First, I'll review economic benefits and estimated project costs. As part of the draft report and SEIS process, our economists are tasked with updating the economic analysis for the project. The first thing they do is to assess and understand the existing import and export commodities for the channel. Based on their assessment, our economists noted that the Matagorda ship channel handles both domestic and foreign trade. Between 2012 and 2023, total foreign and domestic cargo ranged from 10.7 million tons in 2015 to 3.6 million tons in 2021. However, their analysis mostly focused on the foreign trade because domestic trade is primarily moved via barges, which are shallow draft, and the project is focused on the deep draft, so that's more of the foreign trade. The figure on this slide shows the historical foreign trade volumes from 2012 through 2023. Following the closure of the Alcoa facility in 2015, chemical trade emerged as the dominant market segment. Due to the ship channel's proximity to the Permian Basin and the Eagle Ford Shale, the port plans to begin exporting crude oil by 2030, which is when the project would begin to accrue economic benefits. The port also expects to begin importing dry bulk or Portland cement by 2030. In addition, our economists also review the commodity and fleet forecast for the project. So essentially, they review how the widening and deepening of the channel would impact the commodities coming in and out of the port, as well as the type of anticipated vessels. For the commodity and fleet forecast, our economists noted that crude exports are the primary benefiting market for the project deepening, with 3.8 million tons of crude and e-fuel exports anticipated by 2030. Although the same amount of cargo is expected to flow through the port with or without a project, with a deeper channel, fewer vessels would be needed to transport that cargo, with bigger Aeromax class tankers expected to replace the smaller Panamax class tankers. Additionally, chemical imports and chemical exports are also expected to benefit from a deeper channel by also reducing the number of vessels needed to transport the same amount of cargo. I know that's a lot of details, but I just wanted you to be aware that there is a lot of information that feeds into the development about the overall economic benefits for this proposed project. If you want to review the details in more depth, I would again recommend you review the economic appendix, which is found in the draft report and the SEIS on the project website. So next, our cost engineer develops the estimates for project costs for implementing the proposed project. As you can see, cost estimates were developed for each of the scale depths or dimensions that I reviewed earlier in the presentation. As of October 2025, the recommended plan of -47/-49 feet has a project first cost of approximately $624 million. Please note that the project first costs do not include the additional $33 million in associated costs for berth dredging and aids to navigation that are the responsibility of the Calhoun Port Authority as the non-federal sponsor. After the economic benefits and the estimated project costs are developed, the team uses that information to develop the benefit to cost ratio, or BCR. The BCR is a way to quantify the economic benefits of a project against the cost of a project. If the economic benefits of a project outweigh the costs of a project, the BCR will be greater than 1. The table on this slide shows that the current economic summary for the draft report in SEIS. As shown, the proposed recommended plan of -47/-49 feet has an average annual cost of $35 million and an average annual economic benefit of $17 million. As you can see, the recommended plan and the other scale depths evaluated do not result in a BCR greater than 1. However, the primary benefiting commodity for the Matagorda ship channel is exported crude oil, which supports national trade, energy, and defense objectives. Therefore, the Corps is seeking a national economic development exemption from the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works in order to recommend implementation of the -47 to -49 foot scale depth to support these national priorities. The Office of the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works provided guidance to the Corps that we could release the draft report in SEIS while they are reviewing the exemption request. Now I'll review the environmental assessments that were completed, and we'll take a quick look at the upcoming schedule for the project before we start receiving public comments. So throughout the project study area, there are a variety of habitats found, such as salt marsh, oyster habitat, seagrass beds, and open water habitats. All of these habitats support wildlife, shore birds, sea turtles, fish, and other marine sea life. Within the region, sea turtles, giant manta ray, manatees, and several bird species are considered federally threatened and endangered under the Endangered Species Act. In addition, this area has essential fish habitat under the Magnuson-Stevens Fishery Act. Potential impacts to the biological resources would generally result in short-term localized effects caused during the dredging and placement activities. Wildlife and fish will typically move away from these activities. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, the development of the Dredged Material Management Plan, or DMMP, for this proposed project took into consideration oyster and seagrass beds to minimize the impacts to these resources. The team did this by utilizing data from 2 recent oyster and seagrass surveys in Matagorda Bay that were completed in collaboration with Texas A&M Galveston and the Calhoun Port Authority. The proposed placement areas in the DMMP were specifically adjusted to minimize and avoid seagrass and oyster habitats to the maximum extent possible. This was primarily done by switching the placement areas as identified in the 2019 report from the west side, or that bottom side of the channel, to the east side of the top side within Matagorda Bay. Based on the environmental assessment of the project footprint and DMMP, the proposed project avoids any impacts to seagrass beds. However, the team does anticipate long-term impacts to oyster habitat, mainly from the placement of dredge material in the Lavaca Bay area. To offset these impacts, oyster mitigation is included as part of the proposed project. The Corps is consulting with the National Marine Fisheries Service under the Magnesium-Stevens Fishery Act, and both U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the National Marine Fisheries Service under Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act. Biological and essential fish habitat assessments have been submitted to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the National Marine Fisheries Service. Given the potential adverse effects to protected species, the Corps will implement necessary mitigation measures to protect special status species. Cultural resources refer to historic buildings, structures, landmarks, archaeological resources, and Native American cultural properties. Since this project is on submerged lands for the most part, our primary concern is shipwrecks. 2 survey investigations have been conducted in coordination with the Calhoun Port Authority. Based on this data, no known cultural resources have been identified within the project footprint that I showed earlier. However, there are several areas that have been identified with the potential of having cultural resources. As we progress into our design phase of the project, the team will either attempt to avoid those areas with potential cultural resources, or will conduct further investigations, such as dive surveys, to determine their nature. If cultural resources are identified, the goal is to mitigate the effects of construction. This could be done by avoidance, excavation, or some alternative form of mitigation. The Corps is consulting with the Texas State Historic Preservation Office regarding identification and potential impacts to cultural resources within the project footprint. The potential to encounter what the Corps calls hazardous, toxic, and radioactive waste, or HTRW, has been assessed for the project footprint. As part of the draft report and SCIS process, a Tier 1 evaluation was conducted, which assessed sampling results taken from the project footprint, including data from the 2023 Tier 2 evaluation. The 2023 Tier 2 evaluation specifically reviewed data collected from the project footprint within the Lavaca Harbor portion of the Alcoa Superfund site. The 2023 sampling plan for this Tier 2 evaluation was reviewed and coordinated with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, and presented at a public meeting in 2023. The results from this sampling event were provided to the EPA and can be found in the draft report in SCIS. Based on the assessment of all of this data, no constituents of concern were identified above the actionable threshold. This includes the area assessed as part of the Tier 2 evaluation. The Corps is continuing to coordinate with EPA on progress at the Superfund site that could affect this project. So we also wanted to provide you with a high-level understanding of project schedule. As you're aware, we're in the public comment period, which started on November 14th. This is open for 45 days and will end at midnight, I think, on December 29th. After that, the team will continue to work to finalize the report. We currently anticipate a 30-day review period for the final report to be initiated in August of 2026, and anticipate the signing of the record of decision by the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works and completion of the Director's report in November 2026. All right. So now we are on to the verbal comment portion. So I wanted to give you guys an idea of how your input is utilized in this process. So the main purpose of the meeting tonight was not only to provide you, the local community, with an update on this project, but also to give you an opportunity to provide your thoughts and comments related to the project. Your comments are very important to this process, and we welcome what you have to say. As part of this process, all comments, whether written or verbal, will be recorded as part of the public record. We have a court reporter right over there taking all of our notes down. Once the comment period ends, the team will review and consider all comments. Responses to substantive comments will be included in the final report in the SEIS. So how can you provide input? There are several methods for you to provide a comment. You can use the comment forms, which are scattered around this room and the front room. They're at the sign-in table. You can leave them with us tonight if you want to take them home and think about it a while. The address is listed on there, so you can mail those in to us. There's also the opportunity to provide a verbal comment tonight. If you would like to provide a verbal comment and you haven't already signed up, there is a sheet on the sign-in table at the front, so please do so now. The lady in the green back there has the sign-in sheet if you guys want to sign up for verbal comments. If we have time after everyone that's on the sheet to provide their comments and you want to step up and say a comment, I think we'll be able to do that, assuming time allows. We also have an online comment form that you can access on the project website. It's listed, again, the project website is right there on the screen. It's also on the handout. The QR code is right here. So if you want to do it super fancy and use this QR code and get your comment form pulled up, you can do it here. It's also on that handout that we provided, that QR code. Please remember that regardless of how you decide to comment, the deadline for submitting comments is December 29th of 2025. Now I will turn it back over to Hannah to explain the process for giving verbal comments. Hannah, you ready?
Okay, hi everyone. So tonight we'll be taking verbal comments, and as Heather said, we do have a court reporter that will be providing a transcript of all those comments. So you can see on this slide, verbal comments will be limited to 2 to 3 minutes based on how many people sign up. So 3 minutes. The lady in the green just told me 3 minutes. That's her new name. And speakers will be called in the order that they signed up in, or as, you know, so it's in the order they signed up. And at the beginning of your comment, if you could please state and spell your name, and if applicable, your agency and title. And obviously, we probably shouldn't put if in front of this, but if there's time after all the registered speakers have spoken, additionally, we will keep it open for other people to speak. And if there wasn't time, then please provide your comment in writing. And I just wanted to also note that the materials that we're providing today also can be found on our website. And we are recording this presentation and will be on our YouTube channel, which you can find through our website. So we're gonna leave these instructions up here during the verbal comment portion, just to kind of remind people. And then I wanted to introduce the lady in green, who is actually Jen Morgan. She will be calling out the names with a microphone in order received, and then she will hand you the microphone to speak. And then Justin Turpak, who's behind me, he moved, he was stealthy, will be holding up color-coded cards to kind of give time reminders if we need them. So yellow would be your time, you're about 30 seconds to the end of the comment, the end of the allotted time, and then red means you need to be wrapping it up. Though we do not have that many speakers, so time may not be such a big deal. We wrote this in anticipation of all of our speakers. So I will actually turn this over to Jen to start the verbal comment period. So.
One moment. Thank you. Okay, so good evening. I'm going to read the name of the first person on the list, but I'll also announce the name of the second person, the on-deck person, so that one can be prepared to step forward. And when you're ready to speak, please just come up to the middle of the aisle, and I'll hand you the microphone. Okay? The first person on the list is Sam Robertson.
Actually, what I have is more of a question, if that's okay, than a comment. And my question is, on the 2019 plan, it showed putting some spoil on the northwest corner of Matagorda Island. And my other question is, how far are those jetties going to be extended into the bay? I'm a property owner, but that's because our island is washing away.
Jim, is it Jim? Sam, I'm sorry. So one thing we should have probably clarified, okay, this is a true like comment receive event. So what we're looking for is, I would, to your questions, we'll take those for action. We'll capture them officially as comments. And then in our work to finalize the report, we'll answer those questions. Does that make sense? That way they'll be captured, documented, and everybody can see, because there's probably other folks that have the same question. So we'll reframe those as comments. We'll put them on our appendix where we're tracking all of the comments, and we will respond formally to those questions in the document that we produced. Is that fair? Okay, all right. So yeah, so so I know there's a natural inclination to ask questions and understand that completely. But in order for us to formally get your comments and get your questions, we want to document them. We want to put them down for the record. That's why we have the court reporter here. And then we will respond to your comments or your questions, whatever your concerns are. But we're going to do that formally. We're going to have our subject matter experts look at those questions and those comments, capture it, and then when we produce that final response, you'll see the responses to all those comments that you have. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, so next up, Jessica Dutton, and then after that, Diane Wilson.
Thank you so much. So, spelling out my name, it's Jessica Dutton. That's JESSICA DUTTON. I'm an associate professor and marine toxicologist at Texas State University up in San Marcos. And I've been doing a lot of mercury work in the Superfund site now for the past 4 years. So a few of the things that I have been doing in 2023 and 2024, I collected 60 sediment cores from throughout the Superfund site. The majority was taken in the Matagorda ship channel area going into the port, so within that Superfund site area. And one thing that came up tonight was that there's been no comment on the mercury issue in the Superfund site. That was something that was a concern in the last meeting. So in the supplemental EIS, it's basically been said that mercury is not seen to be an issue, and the sediment is good for placement in other areas within the bay. So my understanding is that the way that this was addressed was that cores were collected, and the entire core, half of the core, was homogenized, and the mercury was measured in that. So what that means is that the high mercury level layers are diluted out in the sediment, and you're not getting an accurate reading. Whereas, and I believe it was 28 cores, or 28 stations, that benchmark samples for this project. So with the coring that I've done, we took cores and we analyzed them every 1 to 2 centimeters depth to get a mercury profile with depth. And with regards to mercury not being good for placement in other areas of the bay, the mercury concentration has to exceed 0.5 parts per million. So with the 28 sites that the core or benchmark looked at, all of them fell below that level. But when we do the cores and we do fine scale analysis, we find, for example, one site within the port where the mercury concentration is 2.5 parts per million at the very surface, so 5 times higher than what is deemed acceptable. And out in the area where they're going to do the create the turning basin, we found it as high as 5 parts per million, so 10 times higher than what is acceptable. So when doing this, it really should be done that there is a fine scale analysis and not just taking a core and homogenizing everything. The second thing is that this 0.5 parts per million is based on the Superfund site and whether you can move that dredge material elsewhere. Once you're going to place it in another area, you really should be looking at adverse effects to wildlife. So is it are mercury concentrations high enough that it could impact whatever lives in the sediment and therefore enter the food web? So the EPA threshold level for this at the low end is 0.17 parts per million. So lower than the 0.5 that's used for the Superfund site. And if you look at the cores that were collected, 13 of the 28 cores exceed this level, and several other ones are getting close to exceeding. If you use my data, a lot of the sites within the port area exceed, and in some cases, they exceed also a high concentration of 0.7 parts per million. In that case, at 0.7 parts per million, this means that there's a high ecological risk from placing that sediment elsewhere, and that there's a significant chance that the mercury could start bioaccumulating in organisms and making its way up the food web. So in short, a much more detailed sediment study needs to be done, in my opinion, before there is placement anywhere else. So, we only have a few people. Can I keep going? I've got a couple more things. So it is important because you guys didn't discuss mercury tonight. So the next thing is that you need to look at whether that mercury is going to be dissociated from the sediment when it is moved. There also needs to be toxicity tests done to see if the mercury is accumulated. And then the last big thing is that the focus is on mercury. There's also a lot of trace elements that are in bauxite that are in that sediment as well. And these are elements that was not investigated in the supplemental EIS, including like alumina, gallium, vanadium. So things that are found in bauxite that I'm starting to know what the concentrations are because I'm doing a study on it right now, but they are high, and that also needs to be something that's taken into account, not just the mercury. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and lastly, just for the Army Corps, I believe the last time it was Colonel Blackmon who was the colonel. I reached out to you at that point in time and spoke to him and said, I am happy to share my data with you, go over everything, but you all haven't contacted me. But
Okay.
just so you know, I'm there to help
So,
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Next up, Diane Wilson, and then behind Diane will be Buddy Wilson.
Hello, my name is Diane Wilson, D-I-N-E-W-I-L-S-O-N. I'm a long-time fisherwoman, fourth generation, and I'm executive director of the San Antonio Bay Estuarine Waterkeeper. I believe for the last round with the dredging of the ship channel, we filed a lawsuit against them for many of the reasons. Unfortunately, I have to say again, and we will have written comments on that, but I am really upset that in this very same building, there was a very good presentation on the problems with mercury and the different ways they can be analyzed and sampled. And they were, quite frankly, alarming because as waterkeepers and as a longtime fisherwoman, I have a great deal of concern about what dredging, and especially now that it is much bigger and much more expensive than what they had previously said, that this is going to be going on out in the bay. If you look at their report, and which was very long, they say absolutely nothing, no problem with the mercury, gall levels are satisfied. But the thing of it is we have commercial fisheries out there. We have an oyster farm, one of the biggest in the Gulf of Mexico, and that will be right in the crosshairs of all of this dredging that is going on. So I am very opposed to that. I'm opposed for the safety of the fishermen who are out there in a ship channel that has all this traffic. And matter of fact, when they were talking about the profile of the fleet, we don't have that here. They have to go to Corpus Christi port to look at what it might be because it doesn't exist at this point. So maybe they're envisioning something that is not even going to happen and started dredging out there. And the other comment is I believe the extension should be made on comments since it was, the comment period was put over 2 holidays. And this is a very serious and critical issue to this county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Buddy Wilson, and then after that, Aaron Gaines.
I'm going to go a little more from a 10,000 foot view. In the report, it just doesn't seem to be clear that we've got one segment of the U.S. government, the EPA, and you're working in coordination with the EPA, how if the mercury issue was insignificant enough to dredge through that site, how come the EPA has not removed it as a Superfund site? That just doesn't seem to connect the dots. And my other question would be relative to the summary of potential effects of the recommended plan. Out of the 14 boxes that could be checked, 4 of those are significant adverse effect. And in the body of your report, several times it said steps taken to minimize. I think the word minimize was used more than any others. But it seems like it more fitting would be to reduce. And so with the 4 boxes that are checked in the significant adverse effect, with the next column over being insignificant effects due to mitigation. So cover mitigation that would minimize or reduce, but it seems like, but there's not enough to take it all the way over to the next column. Take it from significant adverse effect to insignificant effect due to mitigation. And it seems like there's, to me, looks like there's some room for and opportunities. Maybe it doesn't move any of these 4 boxes over to the insignificant effects due to mitigation, but it can move it way further away from where it is now.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next up, Aaron Gaines. Following is Del Weathersby.
Good evening. My name is Erin Gaines, E-R-I-N-G-A-I-N-E-S. Thank you for holding this, and just wanted to thank all the staff of the Army Corps for your work on this supplemental report. Clearly it was a lot of work, and we appreciate appreciate that you have, as the Colonel said, paused and reassessed this project. And we urge you, as you continue to take this community input tonight and throughout this comment period, to actually really incorporate that community feedback and not have a preordained result to this process. There's a reason this is a draft, as we understand, and so we encourage you to make your final determination based on the best available science, based on public health and the environment. And we do not believe that this current draft does it. We'll be submitting more extensive written comments on behalf of San Antonio Bay Estuarine Waterkeeper. But tonight I wanted to highlight a few concerns that have also been raised by Dr. Dutton and by Ms. Wilson. And these are, I'm going to focus it specifically on the mercury issues, but I know there are many other issues that are covered by this report. First, the report does not address Dr. Dutton's data at all, as she mentioned, and we have submitted in the scoping period and at other times some of that data, so we really hope that you will incorporate her data into your mercury analysis. As she explained, her methodology is at a much finer scale than the sediment testing that was mentioned in the presentation and in the report. Second, we believe the draft report is incomplete and that all the data that you are relying on for the sediment testing should be made public. So I know there's an appendix with some of the data, but there are other data sets that are referenced in the mercury analysis at a very high level from 2019, 2021, 2022, and those, the full data sets, unless you can point them out to me, I believe are not included in this report, and the public really deserves to see those to be able to comment on the analysis that was done. The draft report, we believe also it gives just summaries of some of those analyses at a very high level and makes this conclusion that there are no concerns related to mercury. But some of the data that is given, we think is just a subset of the broader data and really underrepresents the concerns about mercury. As Dr. Dutton said, it's compared to the wrong EPA threshold level, that EPA cleanup level versus the effects, ERL, a lot of acronyms. The missing data is important. As Dr. Dutton mentioned, the Corps' 2019 sampling actually found that 7 samples exceeded even that 0.5, that higher EPA Superfund cleanup level, but the summary in the report does not mention that. And 19 of those samples exceeded the more relevant effects range low screening level. So we really don't believe it's accurate what is currently in the report in terms of the full breadth of the data that is included, and that all of this data needs to be looked at before you approve a plan or decide whether to approve a plan to dredge through this sediment. Can I go? Can I come back up? Okay. Finally, as you all know, the Corps has guidance on how to do this, and we do not believe that currently it's following its own guidance under the inland testing manual, and that the additional tests need to be done, such as the benthic, water quality and benthic impacts, toxicity testing under Tier 2 and Tier 3.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Dell Weathersby, and then Randy Boyd.
My name is Dell Weathersby, D-E-L-L. Weathersby, like the weather outside, and it's new. My concern primarily had to do with the Pasco Bayou area, and also another part about the depth they're showing at the entrance channel. I know it's a lot deeper than 49 feet now, so you're going to put a floor in it. If you don't put a floor in it, you're going to close up Pasco Bayou completely. Right now, it's what is it, 90 feet or 100 feet in most of the area. You need to address putting a floor in there, just choke it down. You don't have to floor the whole thing. But you got to choke it down, put the water back through the pass. And you might dredge the pass out to reduce that volume. If you widen the jetties, you'll get a reduced volume for a little while. You'll reduce velocity, but it'll come back when the pass closes the rest of it. The pass, if you look at the history on it, it used to be over a mile and a half wide, and the deep part now is maybe 300 feet wide, if that, and it's only probably 15 to 18 feet. It used to be 25, 30.
Thank you, sir.
Randy Boyd, followed by Jonas Titus.
Good evening, I'm Randy Boyd. I'm a lifelong resident of Calhoun County. I own a contracting company named RLP Contracting. I've sat for 20 years on the Calhoun Port Authority Board, 16 of those years being as chairman. Within that, I'm very acutely aware of this project, what goes on, what's happening. And a couple of comments that I would have on this. Number one is there's no doubt that there is a risk in widening and deepening inside the Superfund site that you could expose a lens or layer of mercury-laden material. That possibility will exist because of the record of decision and the way the EPA decided to only bury the mercury that was left in the bay in the Superfund site rather than remove it. With that same methodology, what the Corps and the port should be looking at is if we hit a layer or lens of this material, let's simply go back to the record of decision, over-dredge the area, bring in clean fill material, put the clean fill material on top of it, and cap the mercury-laden exposure so that it is back in the manner that it was before the dredging went on. And let's solve the problem. We're not going to get rid of the mercury because of the way the record decision was written. We're going to be faced with the mercury for the rest of our years in Calhoun County. So let's make sure that we come up with a way that in doing this, that if we do run into a mercury layer or lens, a level that is too high, that we are able to, under our contracts and other things we can do, come back in and cap that. Number two question that I will bring up is, I have a lot of knowledge and experience from building levees and being in the dredging business over 50 years, up and down the Texas coast and Louisiana, about how these ship channels and how the disposal areas are done or costed and different things that go on. Right now, the Matagorda Ship Channel is under a cost ratio or a cost scenario to the local sponsor where under the standard core contract, the local sponsor has to pay for the disposal areas. Right now, the Matagorda Ship Channel is dredged with complete open bay disposal. Because it's complete open bay disposal, there's no levees built. Thus, the Calhoun Port Authority has a zero cost for levee construction for maintaining the maintenance material. Calhoun County is a county of only about 20,000 residents. We have to ensure that if we come in here and redo our permit, redo our channel, if we are going to come in and have leveed areas that are going to hold this dredged material over the years, then we must have a mechanism of how that's going to be paid for so that we don't put that cost on these 20,000 residents of Calhoun County over the years. Because that cost, as I recognize, is tremendous. Although I understand from the comments earlier that the 50-year disposal plan is calculated into this, I would venture people to look back at history on the Houston Ship Channel when it was widened and deepened and recognize how quickly it silted in and how it exceeded the 50-year disposal plan within only a few years. So I would recommend that y'all take a very hard look at that and ensure we don't burden the taxpayers again. Thank you.
Jonas Titus, followed by Darby Morris.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all being here and providing us the opportunity to engage with you all in doing the supplemental environmental analysis. My name is Jonas Titus, Jonastitas, and I am the president of the EDC Regional Partnership. The EDC Regional Partnership is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to create and retain jobs throughout the region surrounding the Matagorda Ship Channel. We have private sector members, and we also represent local governments throughout the region. And we have been proud to have supported a resolution that we passed in March of 2023 and submitted for the record. We are continuing to be engaged throughout this process and support Calhoun Port Authority's efforts to promote the region. We also were, looking at the slides earlier today and saw the potential for the economic growth for the area. And we're currently have a project portfolio of over $25 billion of announced attending projects that could create 2,300 new high-paying jobs in the region. And a deeper and wider channel will allow us to continue to promote those and encourage that investment in our region and create job opportunities for our friends and neighbors and future employees to the region. And we also have great confidence in the plan. We believe that it will improve the safety of the channel, it will create and allow for future economic growth, and we have profound confidence in the environmental sustainability set forth and the standards that we'll be taking. And also, just want to note, our project portfolio includes a lot of new technologies, a lot of emerging technologies and green technologies. A deeper and wider channel will allow this region to become, not only support our legacy industries, but also become more a hub for sustainability, ecology, and supporting being good stewards for the environment. So thank you very much.
Darby Morris, followed by DC Dunham.
Hi, my name is Darby, and I'm not with anybody, I'm just a resident of Calhoun County. And so one of the things that Jonas was talking about was the safety of the ship channel. And the only thing that I would say is that I saw a presentation of one of the ship channel pilots, and one of the things that really stuck with me was that when he was talking about it, when he was saying, and I don't fish, I don't go out on the water, but I see the ship channel as like a highway. And when he was showing us the presentation, he was basically saying if we don't widen it, if we don't deepen it, the barges get wider and things like that. And I keep seeing that. And for me, I care about the economy and stuff like that, but that matters to me. And so for me, that matters because I see there's gonna be some kind of environmental thing. I know the mercury and stuff like that, but if we don't widen it, the ship channel pilots, I've seen the things, and when they're passing by, some of the times when they're passing by, they literally have this thing, they have this much room right now going by each other, and I don't even know how they get by each other now. So if we, there's no restrictions on some of these barges, and they're just gonna get wider. And so I don't know how they pass by. So if we don't widen it, I don't know how we're not gonna have some kind of big, huge, collision. And it's, for me, that's gonna matter, that we don't widen it. So for me, all the rest of the stuff, that matters too. But so I wanna know how you're factoring that into that, and if you're looking at that, and if you're looking for that when you're looking at the widening and deepening, and if you're talking to the Captain Adrians, and all the rest of the stuff. I know if you're looking at all of these huge ships and stuff, but I wanna know that you're talking to the Captain Adrians, and you're looking at that and saying, okay, that matters. Because that matters to me because I live in Calhoun County. So all the rest of the stuff, That matters to me because I know there's a lot of people, they don't live here. I live here. So, that's it.
DC Dunham, followed by Dan Lee.
DC Dunham, D, period, C period, Dunham, D-U-N-H-A-M. And I'm currently the president of the board of the Palacios Economic Development Corporation. And coming from the birding capital of Texas, I want to say that ecotourism, of course, is very, very important to us. But widening of this channel and deepening this channel will have much more economic impact on Matagorda County than anything else. So I'm brief. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Lee, followed by David Adrian.
Good evening, and thanks for this opportunity to provide comments as the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for this project. My name is Dan Lee, spelled D-A-N-L-E with just one E. I'm a San Antonio Bay waterkeeper, and I want to comment on this so-called ship channel improvement project. I got some real serious concerns. First off, being that the comment period is ending on December 29th. This is a pretty substantial, as you know, as you put the work into it, a pretty substantial project to put together the draft SEIS. So I think to give it due justice, I think the community deserves some extra time to look at the complex nature of this project and the potential impacts that it could have on this community. The first point, when moving on, just because I know we're limited on time here, compared to 2019, the draft of 2019 versus now, it looks like the economics don't justify this project. The benefit to cost ratio was 2.26, well above 1 before. Now we're looking at 0.48. This is in the negative. So it doesn't benefit this community. It's taking tax dollars to put into something that is not going to yield economic benefit, and it comes at an environmental cost. The bay is the lifeblood of this community, and you're going to take money from taxpayers, and then you're going to ruin the bay. It just doesn't make sense. So I wanted to bring that up. The project costs have nearly tripled. I think it was like $212 million in 2019 was projected, and now we're at $624 million. So I think the numbers speak for themselves there. On the second point, with the environmental impacts, in the report, in the draft report, it even says, the draft SEIS even says, uses the word significant impact, right? So there's some substantial potential for some environmental harm. 6,600 acres of open bay bottom, loss of dredge material. I think I see the report, 104 weighted acres of oyster habitat affected that supports something that is economically viable right now, which is the oyster and fishery folks here in the community. 350 acres of bay bottom will be permanently covered. And then we got some sea turtles that are going to be affected, but there's no mitigation plan for those affected species either. In the documents, it describes the oyster impacts as significant, long-term, and unavoidable. So I think it warrants some additional time to verify that the environmental costs are worth it. The third point is that I feel that the mitigation plan is inadequate. There's no mitigation plan for the 6,600 acres of bay bottom loss. It's claimed that this is just 10%, but 10% is pretty huge. We're talking about 350 acres permanently buried under the bird island with zero compensatory mitigation. It's just not addressed. The second thing is the created oyster habitat. You even say that there's adaptive management, $1.8 million for adaptive management if the reefs fail, which kind of acknowledges that there's some uncertainty with the mitigation plan if it needed to be bolstered. The third point is that this methodology of weighted acres, it's not clear to me how that works. It seems like a little black box, wave a magic wand kind of thing. One last thing is, again, shoreline erosion. The Corps increases, we need to address that. So in closing, I just want to say again that because of the points I raised, that we should extend the comment period to allow everybody here in the room that's concerned to really dig into these issues that I was going to hear about. Thank you.
David Adrian.
Colonel. Howdy, good evening. I'm submitting this comment in support of the 2025 supplemental EIS for the Matagorda Ship Channel project. As a Matagorda Bay pilot with 20 years of experience navigating Matagorda and Lavaca Bays, I have firsthand knowledge of the limitations of the current channel and the safety, environmental, and economic benefits of the proposed and improved channel. My connection to these bays began long before my professional career. I grew up on these waters right across the streets, where I learned how to sail, fish, crab, and hunt. I've passed all those traditions on to my kids, and we still do it out here in these waters. That foundation deepened when I became a merchant mariner at 18. My career required me to eat, sleep, live on waters all around the world. Those years not only shaped my livelihood, they strengthened my sense of stewardship for these bays and the communities that depend on them. With more than 40 years on these waters, both recreationally and professionally, I believe the proposed improvements are essential to ensuring safe navigation, supporting the long-term viability of our region, and I fully support the project. Darby, your comments were answered when I worked with the Corps. Deepening widen the channel will significantly improve navigation safety by increasing maneuvering room and margins, reducing the risk during challenging environmental conditions. These upgrades reflect the operational needs for larger, more modern vessels for our ports, which will enhance our ability to maneuver ships safely and predictably. The project will also strengthen vessel traffic efficiency and support long-term economic growth for Calhoun, Matagorda, Jackson, Victoria, and DeWitt counties by improving the port's reliability and encouraging industrial investment. I also support the environmental protections outlined in this EIS, including scientifically grounded research and mitigation measures to safeguard our wetlands, fisheries, and water quality. The beneficial use of dredged material to reinforce vulnerable North Bay shorelines and the expansion of Chester Island for the Audubon habitat are meaningful ecological improvements that will help protect our sensitive estuaries and strengthen regional conservation efforts. Based on my professional experience and lifelong connection to these waters, I believe this project is both necessary and beneficial to the community. I strongly support the advancement of this SEIS and the expansion project. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else that would like to be added to the list?
Again, my name is Randy Boyd. One more thing that I would like to point out, tacking on to the back of what Captain Adrian has said, and that is the safety issues that are out here on this channel. As I've said earlier, I was in the dredging business. You want to get a scare of your life, go sit on a dredge in the Matagorda Ship Channel and let a ship come by you and wonder whether that ship is going to run over that dredge or what's going to happen. If you'll recall, several years ago, there was a spill on the Houston Ship Channel from the Simple Barge where there was oil spilled. That oil went out the jetties at Galveston and came all the way down to near Corpus in a matter of days by the way that currents moved that material that was spilled. If we were to have a catastrophic event in the Matagorda Ship Channel, such as a grounding, such as our shorelines are eroded on the channel to such a level between the jetties that a ship could actually hit the jetties. If something like that happened with the hazardous cargoes that are taken in and out of the County Port Authority, the economic impact of that will more than justify the cost to benefit ratio that we're wondering how we're going to reach. So we have to put a safety factor within the fact of the cost to benefit ratio and understand that the cleanup aspect of a catastrophic event will cost much more than the cost it will take to widen and deepen the ship channel. I'm a lifelong resident here, born and raised, been in the dredging industry for over 50 years. I will tell you that I believe what we will be doing is safe. I think what we're going to be doing is good. As long as we address the concerns, as I said earlier, about the mercury and the deal of being able to backfill the mercury and be sure that we cut it off if we run into it, then I think this project should be something that we move forward with and move forward with as quickly as we can. I initially sent the first letter to the Corps recognizing the problem on the Matagorda Ship Channel in 1999, sitting as chairman of the board of our Deepwater Port, telling them that we had 100 foot of water between our jetties that were right up next to our shoreline, where a ship could come in and actually, if they lost steerage, they would wind up on the rocks. And that is a different scenario than there is anywhere else in the world that I've ever visited. And for that reason, I would let you know I support this project. The biggest thing that I will tell you is we need to move expeditiously. We have now been over 26 years, and we are not there yet. We need to get this moving, we need to get it paid for, and we need to support this project to make sure that we have the things that we need in our county. And recall that our county, while we talk about the impact and the need for the bay, our county is raised by 85% of the tax base being industrial taxes. That's where the jobs are created, that's where our children are working, and those are the things that we need to make sure that we'll have for our future. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, if not, I will turn it over to Colonel Dick.
Thank you, everybody. Very valuable comments from all. Thank you very much. This isn't your last opportunity to provide comments. As we stated, you can go on the website and also provide comments. We will take all substantive comments and address them as we go through this process. So I want to once again thank everybody for taking the time to be here. You're here on kind of a yucky night outside, and you're clearly demonstrating that you care about your community and you want to come out here and see what's planned. Thank you for sharing your comments, concerns, your perspectives. Your participation is not only appreciated, but it's essential as we go through this process. So public involvement is a core part of this NEPA process, and your input helps ensure that we complete this project with the clarity, transparency, and community awareness that it deserves. So as we move forward, I want to reaffirm our commitment to getting the engineering right, to being accountable for our work, and to keeping the community informed every step of the way. We know this project carries significant implications for the environment, the local economy, and the people who call this region home, all of you. That is why we will be carefully reviewing every substantive comment received today and throughout the comment period. In the months ahead, our project delivery team will develop an appendix responding to the comments we receive formally, and the final report will be available for public review in fall of 2026. So as we stated before, this is a lengthy process. We remain committed to ensuring that the decisions we make reflect sound science, as was mentioned here tonight several times, responsible engineering, and genuine consideration for your feedback. So thank you again for your time, your engagement, and your willingness to be a part of this process. We look forward to continuing this dialogue as we work toward a responsible and well-informed path forward. Have a safe evening, and thank you for your participation.